I'm joining.
Hello, Tim. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Anton Nicolescu. I'm one of the managing partners at Inulta, and I've been doing finance/CPM field for the last 20 years or so, 22 years. I have worked for Ernst Young. I have an MBA. I have migrated towards software and have been doing it across different platforms, Cognos TM1, Oracle, Hyperion S-Base, and now we're obviously big adepts of Tagetik, CCH Tagetik, a Wolters Kluwer product.
Cool, thank you so much. So this is a question I say to everybody, and the main thing is we do very complex. It's a complex industry in many ways to get it through to people who don't understand what we do. So how do you explain it to others outside our industry? And have you had some misconceptions of what you do actually?
Right. It all depends on the audience and the level of buy-in they have on the CPM platform. So really quickly, just so we can get everybody on the same page, what's a CPM platform? Really, a CPM platform sits amidst all your data on top of an ERP. It unifies different systems, visualization systems, reporting, systems of record, transactional, and allows you to play with that data. It allows you to plan, it allows you to consolidate, it allows you to report, to dashboard, it allows you to go into statutory reporting, ESG reporting, IFRS 16, 17, XBRL, Pillar 2. So it takes care of all the manipulation. It gives the CFO the means to control it. Having said that, going back to your question now that we have set the stage, it all depends on how strategic the CFO wants to be within a certain company. The role of CFO, everybody says is changing, and it is, but it doesn't change uniformly across industries at the same pace. So at one of the end of the spectrum, you still have the CFO who undertakes a reporting role. He's the numbers guardian. At the other end of the spectrum, the CFO has migrated, if you will, into an advisor to the CEO. So the gatekeeper, if you will, to the CEO's vision. And this is the portion, the segment that it's easier to explain what CPM does, because they're completely aligned. What they're looking for is the tool set. And what's not lost on them, it's the fact that they're looking for a solution, and they totally differentiate between a solution and the tool set. They understand that the solution is equal timed, equal portions implementation, software, mindset, vision, and strategy. And slowly we're dragging the whole industry across all industries. We're dragging them towards this end. What you're doing is you're arriving at a place where you're taking decisions not based necessarily on common sense or intuition. Those are important, but they're based on data. You allow data intelligence to shine through past what your initial instinct may be, right? And the biggest point is, how do we consume data? I'm sure there are very smart people out there. I'm very average in that respect. I cannot concentrate more than 4 or 5 variables at once. Anything past that, it shifts into a territory where I cannot relate to that anymore. And this is what CPM allows me to do. This is what this software allows me to do. I cannot take the whole room in with a light. I have a flashlight and I shine it in different portions of my company. And I can take that data set, I can analyze it, I can make a decision based on it and move on, feeling secure that I'm addressing still in a holistic manner exactly what I have to do to implement strategy. So yes, there are misconceptions out there, and they're mostly related to, why do I need to go through this process just to put a pin in it? And yes, if you're doing budgeting just to get a check mark, fair enough. But if you're budgeting and forecasting, if your reporting is the means in which you stay close to the pulse of the company and stay current, right? Then you have a totally different outlook on what this software should do for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So what has been your most significant challenge in CPM, and how have you addressed this?
Right. So there are a couple of things, and I think most of them come from what I'd like to call marketing hyperbole. Obviously, you've got some vendors in the market, and the market itself can be further segmented between enterprise-level vendors and point solution vendors, right? Enterprise being vendors that truly qualify to a company to provide the tool set to accompany the CFO in that journey of transformation. Point solutions really take you an important step, but they take you just past Excel. So I'm going to gear my answer mostly towards enterprise-level solutions. What I call market hyperbole is when the vendor makes it sound that is an easy implementation by virtue of having done so many times.
Sure.
And the truth is that these implementations are not easy, that there's a risk component to all of them. And when you're in a sales cycle, you kind of talk to the client and to the prospect, and you have to bring reality into the picture, but that reality is confronted with other vendors who basically say, no, this is easy. And here we come and we say, no, it's risky. And there's elements of risk here, and it's challenging. And the best way we can handle this is to minimize the risk. This is what our experience has taught us, how to minimize that risk. And what is that risk, you may ask? Well, it's the risk of misrepresenting your functional requirements, where you think you want one thing, but you want something else. And at the end of the day, you deliver what you wanted, but it's not what the company needs. There's the data and metadata set risk, right? It's what do we get? How much data do we get to work with and how reliable it is? There's the whole testing and post-production risk of maintenance. And this is the biggest challenge that we have. It's minimizing that risk. Can we do it? Yes. Can we eliminate all risk? No. I'll just give you a brief example, predictive analytics.
Yes.
And everybody talks about predictive analytics, and it's an important subject, and yes, it gets better every day. But the failure to realize that worse than not using predictive analytics is using it and getting a false prediction. Because now you rely on a sand trap, you're relying on moving ground, right? So it's really the algorithm behind it, and the certainty and the measurement, and how do we move forward, right?
Yeah.
So it's keeping all this stuff in balance during an implementation. The core thing that you're selling is the implementation. The software is the tool set. How do we make best use out of tool set to reach the solution that you want? And that's the challenge.
Fantastic. So could you share with our audience a standout success story that you might have in your career?
Okay. I will stay away from names.
Yes, please do.
Simply by way of being democratic and not
Sure.
singling anybody out in one way or another. And I'll also complement it with some things that maybe didn't work as desired. To me, a success story was this company with 1,700 stores, kind of branching into different directions in terms of the merchandise that they sell, everything from cosmetics and high-end cosmetics and perfumes, but also everyday needs, as well as pharmaceuticals and so on. And this was difficult because in one sense, you had the executive layer conducting a vision of market expansion, profitability, and key KPIs.
Yes.
And then you had the individual underlying layer of each store manager coalescing to make that a viable solution. So yes, we plan, but how do you meet the two in the middle? And it's easy to say top-down, bottom-up planning, but this is a question of alignment as well. And what we successfully did there is through software, through the means of combining the resolving power of software, as well as the automation via email, via comments, collaboration effort, workflow, process flow, we brought everybody together. So essentially you had an executive version of where they wanted the company to be. You had a bottom-up version of how this implementation was going to succeed, and then a middle version that brought everybody together. And this went as far as delineating, for example, what should go on promotion. How do you decide what you should promote in terms of complementary goods, substitutable goods, right?
Yes.
How much inventory you have, loss leaders. And it's one thing to do it on the basis of, if we sell a soft drink, chances are that we'll sell snacks with it. It's another thing to have the data behind it, driving that process and saying, this is the optimum solution for you. And this is what we've achieved. We've achieved it in multiple phases, kind of eating our way, if you will, advancing our way through the solution. But at the end of the day, we had a well-integrated one version of the truth system that virtually brought everybody to the table. No more phone calls, no more emails, or at least reducing them, and a huge shift towards analysis. So in other words, instead of trying to capture data, now we've migrated to how do I analyze it? I'm in my own sandbox. What happens if the dollar appreciates? What happens if the euro strengthens in terms of our suppliers, in terms of our customers? What happens to the inflation index, LIBOR rates, right? Logistics, shipping costs, supply chain planning.
Yes.
Making a robust system. And yes, it was a success story.
That's really good. Yeah. So what's the most rewarding part of what you do for yourself?
It's a transformative process. I've mentioned that I have an MBA, and I will tell you that it was useful to start with. And yes, accounting helps as well, because you take a look at things and all of a sudden you see the numbers. You don't just consume them, you see them because you have a feeling for it. An MBA gives you a bit of strategy. But I'll tell you something. Once you sit and talk to CFOs, once you sit and talk to directors of finance, big companies, car manufacturer, the likes of Nissan and Mercedes and Renault, and you talk to insurance companies like Prudential and AXA, and you talk to banks, and you talk to investment banking, and you talk to Merrill Lynch and to Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. This beats any MBA whatsoever.
Sure, it does. Yeah.
Because think about it. I'm sitting in a room together with my colleagues with bringing a level of knowledge, and then all of a sudden talking to the best and brightest minds in the room who are telling us, here's how we do things at Morgan Stanley. Here's how we do things, at Danone. Here's how we do things at Maus Frère or Prada. And all of a sudden, you have this collective knowledge that you can obviously use to impart knowledge later on. Of course, we respect every single NDA, but knowledge is a powerful thing, and now we have it, and that's very satisfying. It's very satisfying. And what's also very satisfying is to understand the following. When you think of, and I keep talking about planning simply because consolidation and statutory reporting and so on, they almost take care of themselves in the sense that the rules are very tight and they're prescribed. There's not much room for interpretation. But planning is more of an art form. And what's satisfying there is this. I'm dealing with a company, and I don't care who that company is. It could be a really big company like Amazon, or it could be a relatively small company. The truth of the matter is that they all work within a corridor of viability, if you will. They all have scarce resources. For one company, it may be 50 million worth of cash. For other company, maybe a couple of billion. But we're talking about opportunities in the market. We're talking about liquidity. We're talking about how many people are working for us, expansion, means of production, and so on. And now you have to take all those scarce resources and somehow marshal them in an optimum line to make things happen and to align them with your strategic means. And next year, maybe you have to shift things a bit, because maybe this year it's all about market share, but next year it's about efficiency. Maybe you're growing at 30%, but within 6 years, you have to know how to interpret it as a cash cow, right? And having software and building software that gives them the tools to stay within one screen, one umbrella, so I don't have to open 10 systems, and kind of use it as a source of continuous source of information in real time to test my decision, to get the latest numbers, to get the latest actuals, third-party information, and to see how they measure against my educated guess. This is wonderful. This is life-changing for them, because if you don't enjoy your work, you should find another line of work. And in my opinion, chasing data is infinitely not affirming your life and what you should do than analyzing, right? This is definitely a huge sense of satisfaction for us building those systems.
Fantastic. So another question in terms of you know, a lot of unexpected things might happen in our career, in our implementations. Can you share with one or a humorous unexpected thing, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah. Again, I'll stay away from names, but I will
Yeah.
say this is a maybe it's easy to guess or not. The biggest deal that you try to minimize risk, as we said, but sometimes risk cannot be minimized. Sometimes the risk will come and hit you because you couldn't foresee it. And that takes us in the direction of proactivity versus reactive. And obviously, you want to be as proactive as you can. But whether you're 70% successful, 80% successful, 90% successful, there'll always be a percentage where you have to be reactive. And the best way to address reactive solutions is to have scenarios in place that you can simply pull out of your drawer, put it on the desk, and have it work. So you don't need time to waste to assess situation from ground zero. You're ready to go.
Sure. Yes.
And the perfect example where this happened is with a certain bank, which was major investment bank. And then literally weeks before production, there was a shift to also becoming a commercial banking entity.
Wow.
So this is something that at our level, we didn't see it coming. And we were able to adjust to that and to shift the whole underlying database in terms of metadata, in terms of dimensionality, to reflect a totally separate business model within a matter of weeks. Yes, there were some delays, but nowhere nearly significant enough to jeopardize the project. Right? And these are always problems. Yes. Experience teaches you how to be ready for them and to leave certain doors open for such things, right? Sure. But it's never a guarantee. And that was another satisfying moment.
Fantastic. So you're a founder and you started your own consultancy. What's been the inspiration to do this?
So it was a bit of a shift. What happens is Inulta, there are a lot of consultants, and I'm not here to say what's bad and what's good, but Inulta has been very good at specializing.
Right.
Right. I have worked in the past, as I've mentioned, I've worked in the past with different types of software, different types of tool sets. And when it came time to think about Inulta, what we thought of is how do we centralize and bring everything that we know from all the tool sets that we've used in the past, our domain knowledge, which regardless of the tool set is comparable. Right? If you know banking, if you know airlines, if you know manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, NGOs, doesn't matter what tool set you've used in the past,
sure,
that knowledge is transferable. So how do we take all of that and to build a company along the lines of loyalty to our clients and to our partners? How do you build a company that internally it builds one brick at a time and grows organically so you have a workforce that's devoted, loyal, and passionate about what they do? And how do you exceed expectations? And I realize this is a throwaway phrase, we always like to exceed expectations.
Sure.
But before exceeding expectations, you actually have to realize what the expectations are. And we play a major part in setting those up as well. So how do you get to the point where you can build a self-replicating organism, if you will, as the company grows?
Yes.
Maintaining the core values, not falling into the trap of lessening the quality of the work or customer satisfaction or the attention to detail. How do you do that? And we do not think that we are 100% the only ones in the market that do it.
Mm-hmm.
But we are one of the companies that make this their mission statement.
Right.
And if you take pride in your work, if you have any level of perfectionism in what you deliver, you want to have control over that output. You want to have your own company so things can happen according to your best abilities to deliver, the best abilities for this company to function the way it should. So that was the impetus. Can we grow faster? Yes. Should we grow faster? No. It takes time to have the kind of consultants are expensive.
Yeah.
Right? We all know that. They better bring value to the table. If all consultants are taking notes, then you're bringing value to the table.
Sure.
So it takes time to find the right consultants, bring them up to speed, have them shadow more experienced consultants, and then be able to deliver this level of excellence. These are the reasons, these are some of the challenges that we face, and these are the things that make us show up and do the work and then go home so we can start again tomorrow.
Thank you. So you're very knowledgeable. You've been in different systems and things like that. How do you stay updated in terms of knowledge, in terms of information sources? What do you do?
Mm-hmm. So there are two ways you can think about it. You can think about software systems, technical. So technical aspects pulling along the vision, or is the vision that pulls the software in its wake?
Sure.
Right? And depending on the company and depending on the region and depending on the industry, either one of these cases may occur. I'd like to think that what we have to do is to be responsive to the market's vision. So the CFO and the team has to kind of grow into a different role, and we make that possible. We are the tool set, and we have the implementation teams that can make that possible. And also, we reinforce that vision.
Cool.
Because that vision may lack the level of details to be fleshed into a tool set, but it is good enough for us to collaborate and to build it. So when you're looking at the market, I truly believe that you're going to end up with a kind of hybrid where different technical advancements are pushing the vision on what's possible and escaping Stockholm syndrome with respect to Excel.
Yes.
Right? And at the same time, the CFO has a vital need to reach beyond the obvious.
Sure. Thank you. So basically, in terms of our audience, there are a lot of people looking at EPM as a career. Some of them are novices learning, and some of them want to retrain. What's your advices for beginners or people wanting to learn more about EPM, CPM, all that stuff?
Yeah. My advice is don't worry about the technical side.
Right.
Especially with a tool set like what CCH Tagetik offers, the technical side is easily attainable. So don't worry about it. Anybody can learn the technical side. Where you should invest time is understanding the whys behind it.
Right.
Understand the requirements. Understand how you should do things, not necessarily do them. Become a critical thinker in terms of finance/accounting. And then use the tool set to make that happen. It's almost like a designer. We make clothes, furniture, cars, it doesn't matter. First, have the vision. Don't worry about the fact that you do not know yet how to sew, or you don't know how to use a circular saw. Worry about the vision, get educated, and then worry about how you're going to implement it. And that's also fascinating. And that's the reason to really do this. It's what motivates me after all these years, because at the end of the day, as I said, we've changed softwares.
Sure.
Right? We're here to stay with the GEDEC, but we've changed it so far based on market. And what we see right now, what has survived is this continuous learning, especially right now with AI hitting the picture, continuous learning how to make things better.
Thank you. So following on from that, if you had a crystal ball as such, what do you think is going to happen in the next couple of years in our industry? What's going to be the changes?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And here's what I think. I think we're still dealing with a huge percentage of companies who are still using Excel.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to say, well, we have AI coming and all of a sudden we're going to get perfect, not even advice, we're going to get marching orders, if you will, of how we should do things and how we should optimize things from AI, because we've all been surprised by the advancements in AI with ChatGPT and everything else. Yes. But the truth is 70% of the market is still on Excel.
Yeah.
And that is the majority of the market, both in terms of value and number of companies. So I would say baby steps in terms of get them out of Excel into a platform where they can actually become analysts, not just stampers of a budget or of a forecast. And then for the companies who are ready for the next leap in efficiencies, yes, predictive analytics is exciting. It is the future. You know, having the ability to have a unbiased forecast that acts as a bottom level, and then I can build upon it, and I can lay my human acumen. What's technology after all? It's the tool that allows me to push the volume work and to increase my intellectual add-on to the whole complex situation. So the more time I have to think critically about things and let software do the heavy lifting, the happier we are. And it's that line that I think it's shifting, right? Where we're liberating our users to use intellectual capital and stop wasting time on volume work.
Thank you. Thank you, Anton. It's been really wonderful. I've really learned a lot myself, very insightful, and definitely will be doing stuff in the future with you. Thank you so much and have a great day.
My pleasure, Tim. You as well. Thank you.